Chapter 3, Motivation of Life. That which does not kill you makes you stronger. As a reader, you have followed my journey to this point, and mostly you have read about my mom and my principles of life. I arranged it this way intentionally, as the focus of this book is on the others in my life who mean a great deal to me. I wanted to share my life stories through these segments to reveal how I was raised. I have learned that who a person becomes is primarily related to their parents and their environment, which includes the community, the others, and the circumstances that the individual confronts. I recognize that each human is unique, and, therefore, we each face unique challenges. I used to think that the burden God had given me was harder and heavier than that of others. Now, at the age of 40, I know this is not true. In fact, it's just the opposite. God is very fair, and He has only given me the burdens that He knows I can bear. When life's obstacles seem too difficult to overcome, I know that it is intended for me to learn and prepare myself to face the same challenges or even greater ones again later in life. That which does not kill you makes you stronger is a saying we often use in America. I can affirm that hearing this does not necessarily mean you understand or believe it. If you fall 7 times, stand up 8. A Japanese saying that has a similar context is, if you fall 7 times, stand up 8. Let me repeat that this is easier said than done, and when you do this, you won't be thinking in such poetic terms. Just do it is what I often say to myself. After I do something time and time again is when I start to truly understand the meaning of this saying. For everything I have done up to this point, I expect to do again and again and again for many reasons, based on the assumption that what I do adds value to the community, which includes me. First, I have always known and accepted that I would never master anything doing it for the first and only time. Even when I am successful, this process does not give me satisfaction. Second, the real goal is mastery of the act, work, or technique, along with the consistency of successful results every time. This is what I crave. Third, consistency is important in life for activities we carry out in community and business. Falling should be expected, but it is important to give each activity your full effort, including the first time. I have learned that 100% effort given the first time, even with expectations of falling, allows me to fearlessly execute the act and be open-minded to learn how I did in terms of a successful result. Learning and learning, son. My life is big on learning through doing, my mom always taught me. Learning through doing takes time, and so waste no time today, son. It must be today that you do what you want to do, not tomorrow. CHANTRUNGNAOM8OCONUOCM80. There's no battlefield without tears. There's no battlefield without tears, Mom taught us. Interestingly, she just said it again last night during our gathering, resharing her stories. She is referring to her life of hardship and all the business and life challenges that she has faced. She speaks metaphorically, using war zones and battlefields to describe her challenges. It was only recently that I started to feel comfortable with this. It took me until the age of 40 to recognize that I appreciate falling, as it is through this experience that I find I actually get more out of life. I have discovered that when I fall, I also learn why I fell. This often results in a very strong sense of failure, but it creates the desire in me to succeed the next time. Typically, when I launch a project successfully, I tend to move on to the next thing immediately without thinking much about it again. I almost always think that I have mastered the technique of whatever I succeeded in doing. However, in life I have learned that it is consistency that matters the most. Furthermore, it means that it is through ongoing, repetitive actions that I contribute to the community. I want to be strong, so God has given me difficulties to overcome. For those who believe in God, knowing how to pray matters a great deal, Mom said to me. Those who do not believe in God, or a higher power, tend to focus on self. According to The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, Ph.D., it is important for them to know how to speak to their subconscious mind. At the end of the day, it is about knowing how to frame your mind with God or with self that drives your actions to the greater good of the community. As a Catholic, I have learned to pray and accept. I give credit to an anonymous individual on the internet for the words below. These words resonated with me a great deal, and I hope they will with you as well. 1. I ask for strength, so I accept difficulties to overcome. 2. I ask for wisdom, so I accept problems in life to solve. 3. I ask for courage, so I accept dangers to overcome. 4. I ask for love, so I accept troubled people whom I can help. 5. So, help me God to do the things above better. Do them with me in every way. Son, ask to do. Have the strength, the knowledge, the courage, and the will to do and do and do. Do not ask to have and to be given. We have what we need, and so we need to use it to work and add value. We must train our minds to drive us toward the correct actions. We should tell our brains to accept the challenge, accept the fall, and to act repeatedly. Who am I? Who am I is one of the hardest questions that I face in my life. This is not because I have difficulty telling people who I am, but because I do not believe that it is important. I was raised to focus on doing in others and wholeheartedly believe that this is the right way to go through life. I find happiness in serving others instead of myself. Advancing through different stages of my life has included climbing ladders in my professional career as a computer engineer, college professor, college owner, small business owner, and currently an investor in business, community, and people. The me does not provide me any satisfaction, to the contrary, it often holds me back. It is also the main reason that I held off writing this section of the chapter until after I had elaborated on the life principles that have guided me. This might help readers grasp the whole picture of who I am and the reason why focusing on others is more important. Talking about what I did. How should I brag about myself when I know it is necessary in this society of individualism? A mentee has asked me on more than one occasion. We live in the United States, where the me is elevated for career promotions, job landings, business sales, and more. I replied, what you want to ask is, how can I introduce myself more strategically, for others and me to see the value that I can add? I learned that the me is not important. What is important is what you have done for others. Ladies and gentlemen, we have no value to others and community until we can add value to something. As soon as you have said that, you can then comfortably and appropriately speak about the exact actions that you have taken. You are no longer speaking about yourself, rather, you are speaking about the positive action that you took on behalf of others. I have shared this concept many times with my students and ments in our many sessions. I learned that good presentation and communication skills, always delivered in a respectful, constructive manner, combined with a focus on accomplished works, are important for yourself and others. I also learned that authentically sharing stories of value added is an effective method to self-assure and motivate the initiation of your next task. It is also how you attract others to you. I am too inexperienced to sell myself. Whenever my ments and I have these types of sessions, there are apprehensions about being young and green. There are also concerns such as, I have no experience to show or discuss on my resume. How can I promote myself? I also thought like this when I was young, and it's hard to break through these barriers until you gain more life experience. Throughout my career, I have interviewed close to 1,000 job applicants, and have probably submitted the same number of resumes myself. Knowing what I know now through engaging with many interviewers and interviewees, my resume has never met the standards I set for myself. Who says young people have not done anything and have not had the opportunity to show value added? I have often asked students, if you have not done it, then do it now. If you have done it, then learn how to speak about it and show it. Here are a few immediate things that you can do, which you can then share. These are house chores, church chores, and community chores, all of which require volunteers. When looking for a job or launching a new business, we must know what value we can provide. Almost all work is rooted on a foundation of work at home and in the community. This can involve any expertise. I often refer to a book written by Admiral William H. McRaven, Make Your Bed. Admiral McRaven states, if you can't do the little things right, you will never do the big things right. If I cannot make my own bed, there is nothing I can do in life, I frequently remind myself. He further indicates that if you walk into your house and your sink is filled with dirty dishes, and you do not do something about it, there is nothing you can do outside. I share this with my ments. I also relate this to other household chores such as laundry, shoes, and school homework. Small task completion matters, because that feeds motivation and confidence on the big tasks. I have swept and vacuumed my floors almost daily, and this has become natural to me. I am obsessed with a clean environment, so what you do inside the house, do consistently. You will naturally, based on muscle memory, repeat this behavior outside the house or with others using the same mindset. Please focus on the consistency as well. Again and again, doing it is important. You want to do the value added work without thinking about it. Let it be automatic, I emphasize. My benchmark lives that I can impact. At age 40, I have been blessed on many levels, and super blessed that my wife and I have the family that we have. I refer to my small family that my wife and I have built together, which includes 3 baby boys, who are now 8, 6, and 5. We also have our extended family, which includes great and loving parents on both my side, my spouses. Our parents love their grandchildren, and the same is true for all our cousins and other relatives. Given my background and the way I was raised, I am proud but not satisfied with my accomplishments when I compare them to the level reached by my parents, especially my mom. I use a very high bar to measure myself, which is based on my mother's accomplishments. Even at my current age, I am still unsure if I can ever surpass my mom's activities involving value added to family and community, but I intend to create my own version of value to this community and in this new country. Throughout this process, I have learned that in life we need to have a goal and a measurement of success. For me, it is simple, and some may consider it competitive. I hope to meet my mom's level of value added, and hopefully, someday I will surpass her in some area. My measurement of success is and always will be the number of people and lives that I can impact. Age only allows you to do more, with the possible exception of physicality. Age 40 is relative, it is not considered very old by many, but based on a youth scale, it is not considered young. For me, it is the prime time. 40 is the age at which you are at the peak of your life, and you start to go downhill from there, a friend of mine shared once, referring to health first, and our eagerness to achieve new heights in careers and business second. I do not believe that this is true, except from a health perspective. I notice that my physical energy is less than it used to be when I was younger. Interestingly, my wife and I met her uncle in Boston last week before I wrote this chapter, and he said, "I don't know how you can drive overnight for 9 hours anymore. I cannot do it at this age." Well, he is over 50, but I do understand what he means. I used to be able to drive all night and stay awake all day at a vacation destination without noticing any effect. Now, however, it takes its toll. Other than this type of physical change, I disclaim everything else about aging. My circle of friends, mentors, and business partners, many of whom I meet with on a daily or weekly basis, range in age from 50 to 90, 10 and more years older than I am. Of course, this includes my mom. They are all highly energetic in what they do, effective and efficient in every task, and super hardworking. Most are early morning risers who hustle in the community until night falls, always doing it with a smile. I used to question as a young kid, why would these people who are so rich and successful still work? Wouldn't it be the goal to do nothing and retire? My mom said, "Son, do not talk to me about retiring. I will die faster if I stay at home and do not work." Many of my mentors share a common theme saying, "Who says I am working? And who says I work for money?" Don't get me wrong, I still want money, but it's not what you think. Money is the value received that I must be rewarded for the value I give, but what I really want is beyond that. What I want and need is a feeling of satisfaction that I am maximizing what I have by providing good to others. I learned that age only means I supposedly know more, and I am more capable, wiser, increasingly networked, farther reaching, and more impactful. Supposedly, emphasized one of my mentors, because age tends to magnify what you have previously done, but on a larger scale. If you stand still, you will be further back and you will recognize you are backward as time moves, a mentor of mine shared. I learned that if I read 1 page of a book a day, in 365 days, I would complete at least 1 book, that is equivalent to 1 body of knowledge that I did not have previously. If I take 1 step forward each day, or even 1 inch forward a day in my business, a relationship, or writing a book as I am doing now, I will progress much further into the future versus standing still. Accumulation of small wins creates big ones, as confirmed by many of my mentors. Age is not an excuse for not stepping forward, but it is the biggest excuse used by people who do not move forward. So do now, act now, stand up now, move forward now, and make a dent in what you want to do now. This is what my mother always taught me. Nothing you have is truly yours, except yourself. Son, nothing you have is yours, and it is all temporary, Mom taught me. We come into life naked and empty, and so will we leave naked and empty. In the Bible, there is a quote that resonates a lot with me now: "You are dust, and to dust you shall return." Things come and go, and that applies to friends, family, wealth, and materials. New things are made daily. If old products did not deteriorate, there would be no place for new items, a mentor once told me. So, what you have is not so great, even when it is, son. Mom held high principles for herself and her children and reinforced this in her children's young minds. What you have is not worth talking about. Material goods are absolutely nothing to brag about. The items that you gain or sometimes work hard to earn have no meaning or value to you or others, Mom continued. What she meant by this is that we may have the tools, but they are useless unless we use them, and more importantly, use them for the good of others. What you do with those, and especially the value-added actions you make out of those materials, brag about those, son. The right to brag is in actions, not tools. I recognize now that none of what I have is mine, even my own physical body. Wealth comes and go. Material goods age, become old, and need to be replaced. Things go out of style over time. The only thing that belongs to you is yourself. Many of my mentors have led me to this conclusion through their teachings, referring to yourself as your mind. The only thing that is truly mine is my brain. We are on the clock, someone told me once, so even time is given to us. Time wasted is the time during which you have done nothing to add value to life. This was explained to me by one of my mentors. Maximize the time and materials given to you to create more value to others. This is the only thing you can brag about in life, Mom said, giving her children permission to be boastful. When I was a boy, I interpreted this as her saying, "Be quiet and get to work." However, I now have a clearer image of what she meant. Today, I recognize that this had a deeper foundation, and she was referring to a value-added mentality. Humans love to boast, but bragging about yourself and material possessions is easy, son. Bragging about what you have done for others and the value you have added to their lives requires a lot more, because you have to do it first. You will learn to use all your assets, and these include time, materials, and hard work to add value to another person. That is not an easy task, but you will appreciate that more, gain greater satisfaction, and be happier in that way. In addition, this happiness is long-lasting and will remain with you for the rest of your life. I only brag about one or two things that I have done for others in my lifetime, not much, just a few things that I am very proud of, a very wealthy and successful mentor told me once. Bragging the right way will also motivate you to do more for others, so you can earn more right to brag, my mentor confirmed. When good deeds are given, they come back instantly. Earning the right to brag about my value add to others takes time, a lifetime potentially, depending upon my specific goals in life contributions. It is the level of my mom's contribution toward others that I intend to reach and maybe exceed in my lifetime. Self-development occurs in stages. Each small contribution propels me up the ladder and advances me forward. I was once interviewed for a top-level engineer position, where I was asked, if you could be a superhero, which one would you like to be? The answer came naturally and quickly to me, as it was grounded on the foundation that has been the basis of my life. I responded, I would be me, because me is enough. Me is enough to handle the responsibility that I was born to handle, especially in regard to value added or contributions toward others. I continued, if you like Marvel Spider-Man, there is a quote that says, greater power comes with greater responsibility. So, our life responsibility for value added is not lessened, lighter, or easier if we have superpower, it comes with an equivalent burden. In physics, I learned that if we hit a wall with something, the same amount of force is bounced back or must be absorbed and go somewhere else. In the Chinese culture, there is a philosophical concept called yin and yang, which represent two complementary forces that make up all aspects and phenomena of life. My mom often repeated, God is fair, son. Everyone is given tools that they can use to generate expected results. By my tools, she meant my physical health, my body, my knowledge, my brain power, my surroundings that include others, and my time. What I do with these tools to serve others and add value is under my control. There is a sense of responsibility to maximize my life tools to create good deeds. Dale Carnegie, in one of his books, defines a good deed as when you can put a smile on others' faces. Good energy toward others will result in good energy returned to you. A mindset geared toward others is a mind with less worry, because worry is grounded on being self-centered and striving for self-good. I experienced 40 years of life, 25 years of working, 20 years of owning businesses, and 20 years of professional full-time corporate engineering. I have experienced worry almost on a daily basis. Only now do I understand that these apprehensions are grounded in the me. These include such concerns as I want that job, I want that project, I want that house, I want that car, I want to be respected, I want to be paid, I want, summarized, these are all expectations for me. Interestingly, all those thoughts only generate stress. They do not provide any sense of satisfaction or happiness, even when the goal is met. Me is limited and others is infinite. Me is a single body, one life, one brain, and very limited by all levels of comparison. Me is limited in both doing and consuming, everything is on small scale. I only eat 1 or 2 meals now. I still wear the same clothes that I wore 10 to 20 years ago. I live in a 3,500 square foot brand new house by myself, but I am never home. I can only use one car and prefer being driven by a friend or using Uber. Why do I want all these things? Many mentors and friends have shared statements with me along these lines. Most of them range in age from 50 to 90 plus. We are limited as humans, friend. What we want is to tap on the infinite source, a mentor told me, referring to others and the community of others. We are social animals, and we thrive on social interaction and social accomplishments. We crave that, one told me. I am exceptionally lucky to be surrounded by many highly experienced, successful, and grounded people who have embraced these proven theories and tested them throughout their lives. But hearing is not listening, and listening does not mean I can feel it. I can attest to you that it takes life experience to understand this concept, while seeking for meaning in life that includes happiness. Action is the true source of experience. Just do things for others, my mom always said. When the me wants and expects things from others, it becomes overloaded and cannot handle it, which leads to stress. Human expectations have no end. Things we want for ourselves have no limit. Even when we get what we want, we often cannot handle it, misuse it, or underutilize it and waste it. We most often do not have time to enjoy what we achieve. Meanwhile, we have already moved on to the next want or target, mentors have taught me. We compare ourselves with others, and then others, and still others. We compete with ourselves for an infinite source. How do you think we can win? A friend once asked me. I learned from many that what we should do is flip the thinking and be part of the infinite source and focus on the others. Social media is a great example of today's world, and how people tap into the infinite source of others to achieve their happiness. An example is a Facebook post to the internet community, in exchange for a virtual Facebook like. It must be kept in mind that social media is virtual, and the virtual community only provides virtual results. Today's virtual world focuses on the immediate, fast come, and fast go in all things. Value added for others is also limited. Restricted value added to others also leads to low satisfaction and reduced happiness. My focus in this book is on real human interaction, connection, and the life impact on others, the infinite source of power on many fronts. Flipping the me, the limited power source, to the others, the infinite source, has led me to many successes. I learned that when I shared my knowledge openly with others, many were open to sharing their knowledge with me. I learned that when I contributed my time to help others solve their challenges and became part of the solution, in turn, many invested in my personal and business challenges and helped solve them for me. I learned that when I genuinely smile at others, many smile back at me with understanding. I learned that money given to charity for the sake of others creates a reciprocal action, and many others buy and utilize my services, which boosts my businesses. I learned that when I elevate others, many others will promote me behind the scenes, sometimes without my knowledge. I learned that even having the right tool does not mean I have the skill to utilize it well. I learned that even when I can do very well with the right tools, I still need the right conditions to accomplish the tasks. These include health, environment, politics, and climate. Surrounding myself with others for whom I can add value and, in turn, gain complementary value is the key to life. The others, the unlimited source of power, is achieved only through doing. This is an action of value added with a focus on others. It is a privilege to serve others. Happiness is partially about pleasure, but mostly about victory, triumph through doing, and achievement for things you do for others, often with others depending on the scale of the work, my mentors confirmed. I learned that the power to do, the magnitude of doing great things, and the height of achievement in serving others depends very heavily on the power to tap into the infinite source others. I call this the privilege to serve. Everyone wants to do great things, once they recognize the source of happiness and power is within the infinite source of others. But not many can, not many do, and not many have the environment or the conditions of life to support that, my mom shared. She was referring to that fact that God has a plan for each of his people, and what I can do is uniquely for me. I am not able to do what others can. I learned to use that privilege to serve others in my own capacity, to the maximum that I can, and work toward doing this more every day. According to the U.S. Office of Education's book, Americans All, Immigrants All, No Race is Superior to Any Other when the environmental and social conditions or opportunities are the same. As an Asian growing up, I tended to believe that since we were born physically smaller than the Europeans and other Westerners that we might be inferior. God might be a little unfair, I thought. Immigrating to the United States, I later learned that I was categorized as a minority, because Vietnam is part of the Asian pool that represents less than 6% of the total U.S. population, in which there are around 60% white, 18% Hispanic, and 13% black. The United States of America is the gold standard. It is the land of opportunities, Mom stated repeatedly after we landed in America. Even without the vocabulary, I quickly learned that my family and I were starting from the bottom in every category, so we could only look up. We look up to God, the highest, and everything else falls under him. That's all we need to know, Mom taught me. Starting with what I internally believe, I now have the vocabulary to describe such terms as inferiority, minority, small, underdog, or backseater. Everything comes to me as grace from God and the people in God's image, and it is simply a privilege to be who I am. The United States Census of 2019 and partially of 2022 indicates that Asian Americans are a minority in population, but the leader in average income by race at $98,471 annually. This is 43% higher than the overall median income. The second highest income is white is at $76,057, followed by Hispanic at $56,113, and black at $45,438. Personally, I am not sure if this means anything to me, since none of this really has any effect, at least directly, to what I want to do or how I was raised. Work at it, focus on the value added to others, do not waste privilege or the grace from God that has been given to you, son, Mom repeatedly taught. The United States is the land of opportunity and the only true place that is equal for all. How do you feel about the United States? Many have asked me this question, and my answer is quite simple. The United States of America is heaven on earth, where opportunities are open and free for anyone who recognizes this and works to achieve their goals. Americans All, Immigrants All confirms, there's no such thing as Native American. Every single race, including the American Indian, are immigrants. The U.S. is the most composite nation on earth, where everyone is an immigrant. It is also inherent in the democracy that you are as good as I am. There is an acceptance of others and everyone. To me, if this does not represent heaven, I am not sure what heaven is. This heaven-like effect is called American privilege. This is the main reason my parents worked so very hard to bring us to United States and to start a new life. They arrived empty-handed, making it the third time in their lives that they had started over. They accepted this risk and took this chance based on their faith in God and did it for my sake and for my siblings' future, so that we would be able to appreciate freedom in life. Heaven on earth, the United States of America. In 1995, I came to United States at the age of 12, after graduating from the 6th grade in Vietnam. Not a single word of English is how I often described myself starting out in this new country. Not as smart as many, and not as courageous as most kids, I was completely silent in all school classes for many years. Introvert was an understatement to describe me back then. I spent almost 6 years in ESL, English as a second language. Unfortunately, this meant that I did not learn anything other than English during middle school and high school. As I watched my classmates graduate from the ESL class and matriculate into the regular school grade curriculum subjects such as social studies, art, math, and science, it became apparent to me as a young boy that I was among the lowest of the low academically. As I write about and reflect on this experience, I remember how amazing my ESL teacher was. It was a privilege that I probably would not have gotten elsewhere, especially in my origin country of Vietnam. I only knew Vietnamese, and my ESL teacher only knew English, but magically she knew how to teach me English one word at a time using pictures and words. For example, she would hold up the word apple with a picture of it underneath the word. I am grateful now to my very core. The first step is hard in everything, my mom always said. I now realize that it must have been frustrating teaching basic English to a kid like me who took 6 years to learn it, but my teacher was calm, patient, and most importantly, caring. I refer to this as my first realization of the heaven on earth effect that is the United States. I am American made, not American born, I often describe myself. I was born in Vietnam, but almost everything I am today was fostered, developed, taught, and mentored in America. I can affirm that 100% of who I am today was built with the many hands of others whom God brought to me with grace in this number one country on earth. I would never have expected that, after 6 years of learning, I would be able to speak English. Most other kids in ESL classes graduated in less than 2 years. I had to continue attending ESL as an elective in undergraduate college programs. I learned through my experience of learning English that language learning is best accomplished through practice, more specifically, speaking as often as possible. Of course, my shyness did not help. I remained completely quiet for years, throughout junior high, high school, and even during the time I worked toward my bachelor's degree in computer engineering. I was shy beyond the limitations of language. I was even reticent in my own Vietnamese community. While writing this section, I received a phone call from my second child's school principal who said, "Mr. Tran, your son is currently in first grade, and he has not spoken to any one of his teachers since he started school. Is he okay? Does he speak English at home?" I smiled and answered, "Sir, thank you so very much for calling. Most importantly, thank you for caring so much that you called me to discuss this topic. I am extremely grateful for the loving others in the US who helped to develop the next generation as they did with me. I am his dad, and I did not open my mouth in grade school or college, so I expect that he has totally inherited my genes. So, thank you for your patience. My son speaks mainly English at home, and he is quite capable as an individual. He is just super shy, and he needs to be eased into the processes at school slowly," I said to the principal. Growing up as a shy introvert, I learned and studied hard to overcome this for my sake, for my future children, and hopefully, for future generations. Learning through doing, son, was my mom's best advice, and I found it to be effective in overcoming my shyness. My spouse and I have put our 3 children into martial arts, common, math and English, tutoring programs, swimming, soccer, and a Russian school of math for confidence building. In this case, my second child is well versed in math and English for his grade level, most often exceeding grade expectations and advancing to the next level. Therefore, I was happy to report this information to the principal. Listen and observe. There's no such thing as failure, there are only undesirable results. Fail forward, some of my young professional friends often say as a motivational statement. I have learned that each time I fail, I learn a great deal more than when I successfully land at the desirable result. When I fail, I ponder over it, I sleep with it, I try to figure out the conditions that created the failure, my current skill set, my actions, and others' reactions toward my undesirable results. There are times that I sit thinking about it for weeks until I figure out the answer of how to do it again or to change my target for a better result. As a shy and introverted young man, my speaking skills were not sharpened or developed. This evolved over time, similar to most other kids. This turned out to be one of the most important skills of all for the success of self-development, professional life, and business development. Taking a step back was the result of not being able to present my thoughts and ideas, and more importantly, building my own confidence. In return for my shyness, I did gain one skill that is just as important, crucial for life, and often taught by most of my mentors, and that is the ability to listen and observe. Get into school, and get out as fast as you can. While most kids play and laugh, bouncing ideas back and forth and interacting with each other, I was one who sat in the corner, watching, observing, and learning differently, almost like a video recorder that kept recording the moving images and sound around it. I enjoyed the learning experience that I got through my childhood as a quiet kid, but I was not able to share this with anyone. Sharing knowledge was one thing I could not do. While shyness was the main obstacle, English as a second language was an additional layer on top of it. Neither was I great at school assignments. However, given my unsurmountable difficulties at the time, I never failed a class. As a kid, I always knew time was the most crucial aspect of life and that failing a class would officially put me back one step, therefore, I made sure this never happened. What is the number one piece of advice that you would give to young people going through college? I was often asked this question in my mentoring sessions or at public speaking events. I always responded, get in school and get out as soon as you can with your certificate or degree in any field that you are studying. School is only the beginning. Real school is life after formal education. Graduate from school as fast as you can by never allowing yourself to fail a class. Grades do not matter, but do not fail, because that would mean that you have to repeat the course. School costs a lot on many levels: time, money, family stress, and personal anxiety. Students actually lose doubly while in school, because not only do they have to pay to attend, but they also lose the earnings they might have made if working instead of attending school. I tried to get hired by a company as soon as I could, even when the pay was low. It is a better bet than not working at all, because that low-paying job is the same as going to school, but in real life and with real pay. The best part is, many companies also pay for college and continuing education, so you can learn as you earn. Being an underdog is a good position. Being an underdog is the best position from my experience. You only have one way you can go as an underdog, and that's up, someone once told me. People are the most frightened by someone who does not have anything to lose, not the one who is strong, big, or successful, another friend shared with me. I never actually thought of life in this way, but it is interesting that I gained another perspective. Nevertheless, it is a way to motivate you to stand up when you fall. I always knew that I was coming from the worst of the worst. I came from a place where the homeless in the United States were far better off than I was. I have sometimes shared this information with people, referring to my hometown in Vietnam, where food was lacking to the level that when I craved something sweet, I could not even find sugar in my family's kitchen to soothe the hunger. In America, simply ask and there is food available through many non-profit organizations. At my Catholic church in South Louisville, our priests and volunteers, including myself, hand out boxes and boxes of food every Friday, and we have been doing so for years. We often load a car trunk full of food, and these include fresh food products from Dare to Care. We cannot be physically hungry in the United States, but we are hungry for life goals, or the meaning of life, a mentor told me. I could not agree more. There are a large number of young people in the US who are depressed and lost, and that can be scary, a successful parent told me, referring to how she worries for her kids who are about to start college. As I write this, I realize once again how thankful I am to God, the United States of America, my origin country Vietnam, and all the people involved in my life. These influences have determined what I have today and who I have become up to this point. I have always been an underdog, on the bottom rung of the ladder in all aspects of life. I was a kid who was laughed at for not speaking, and when I did speak, I was laughed at for my strange foreign accent. I was a funny-looking, skinny kid who froze when I had to stand in front of people, a kid who had not one word to say during a class presentation. I was a kid who was so poor that I only had one pair of pants, which I wore so much that they smelled. I was a kid who was simply different and weird in the eyes of many. All these experiences combined to make a man, built from a kid who experienced many walks of life. Most importantly, these experiences made that kid walk the walk, think the thought, write the words, speak the incomprehensible sentence, present in front of the scary crowd, recognize and appreciate the hardships that come with hard work to overcome challenges in life, and highest of all, cherish the others around him. Formal education and life education focus. For years after we immigrated to Louisville, Kentucky, my family established a life. There were still many hardships, but the situation had become much more manageable at this point. We had a permanent apartment to live in, and my parents each had 2 to 3 jobs to work at each week. I remember that mom and dad brought home a check of $250 per week for one job, and mom worked 2 to 3 jobs, so she earned around $600 weekly. We were not comfortable, but life was livable since my family knew how to be frugal, coming from such abject poverty in Vietnam. I remember most of my clothes were chosen from a free pile of clothes donated by Catholic Charities of Louisville. Occasionally, we might buy items from Goodwill or similar mission organizations. These were not new clothes, but they were clean and very stylish according to my standards, considering I only had 1 or 2 sets of clothes in Vietnam when I was little, and they certainly did not match the quality of our used clothing. As I look back on some old pictures now, I am grateful for how far we had come, and for the beautiful abundance of love in the hearts of the American people. This was also the time I had an experience that would be a benchmark in my life. Education has always represented the apex to my parents. Your dad and I worked very hard and traded everything to cross the ocean for you to be in America. Freedom is what we said we wanted, but the aim and the more real and tangible goal was the educational opportunity for you that was sitting on top of that free world. Mom shared this regarding why we moved to the United States. My parents never knew enough or had the time to assist my sisters and me with our schoolwork, but they always asked about school and wanted updates on our progress. My mom worked so much that she only slept 2 to 3 hours a night for the first 6 years of our new life in the US, so, whenever I saw her, she was napping. Your mom is always dead in my car, close friends of the family shared. They worked with her in the same factory and picked her up and brought her home from work. I never bothered to share much with mom but knew that study had to be my number one focus. I always knew that I owed my parents that on top of all else. I never thought I would need additional motivation for my formal education, considering none of my family members had ever gone to college. Being the first was exciting, but now that I look back on it, it was not even a thought back then. I knew I would do it. But then I received an unexpected drawback to my educational aspirations. The Vietnamese community of Louisville, like many immigrants' community people, stayed together in the south end of Louisville. We hung out together at church, temple, and Vietnamese cultural events. St. John Vianney is a church that was donated to the Vietnamese Catholic community by the Archdiocese of Louisville, and they hold Vietnamese-speaking church masses every Sunday. I have attended this church for Sunday Mass for the last 24 years. The church has a Vietnamese youth Eucharistic group, which I was fortunate to be part of for more than 15 years. This is where I met and developed a group of young Vietnamese friends with whom I grew up. In a Sunday meetup after church during my 4th year in America, while hanging out with this Vietnamese youth group, we discussed schools and college. I was attending Seneca High School in Louisville that year. Back and forth, our group, young boys and girls, chatted about this college and that college that they would go to once they graduated from high school. A close friend of mine, a girl who had the strongest English skills in the group, said, "Tran, you cannot get into college. Even if you do, you cannot get out." Of course, she was referring to the fact that I would not graduate even if I could get into a college. I was the shyest person in the group, so my reaction was to have no reaction. I cannot remember the rest of the conversation, but I vividly remember this statement. This statement started to have an enormous effect on me after I completed my bachelor's and master's degrees in computer engineering and computer science at Speed School of Engineer at University of Louisville. 1 or 2 years after completing my master's degree in engineering, I started thinking in terms of, what if I get my PhD? What if I teach in college? What if I help others who have similar backgrounds? Would that be cool? Then I started to think about the girl's statement made to me more than 10 years earlier, "You cannot get into college." I began to think of how true this statement was at the time it was made. We were young, none of us in the group were in college, nor did we know what the future would hold. All of us were first-generation immigrants, and no one in any of our immediate families had ever attended college, which was probably true for most of our previous generational extended families in Vietnam. We did not know for sure how much money it would take to get into college. I was trained by my parents to be highly practical and worry about the 1 or 2 things in front of me, and accomplish these, instead of worrying about the weeks, months, or years ahead. I was worrying about the 1 or 2 classes in high school at that moment, or more specifically, the homework and classwork for those classes, not college. I learned early, often not by choice but by life situations and conditions, to worry about what was right in front of me, not anything too far-fetched. My focus was on learning a new language. Passing high school was the goal for me, not college. David Heinemeier Hansson and Jason Fried shared the same feelings in their book, Rework. Paraphrased, the authors indicated that everything is guessed for the future, because it does not exist yet. Who's to say your guess is better than mine? So, focus on this week, not next month or years in the future. Focus on one thing that you can do now and accomplish this week. During 2009 and 2010, I began to think seriously about teaching in college. I could taste the feeling of teaching others and adding value to the lives of those who have faced the same life challenges as I have. What if I could help others graduate from college and land jobs in half the time it took me? At this point, my excitement began to accelerate. I could feel my heart rate increase and my eagerness to achieve this goal move into high speed. I knew that I seriously wanted this and that I needed to act immediately to get there. And so, I applied for a PhD program in information technology, IT management, and applied for a job as an adjunct college professor in the IT department. It was then that my life as a college professor began. I realize now that education comes in different forms, which I categorize as formal education and life education. I have learned both and will continue the process of lifelong learning from others around me. I have had great teachers and professors in formal education, as well as great friends, business partners, community leaders, and family members who have been my life instructors. I have also learned that knowledge lessons come in many forms, and all are beneficial to me, especially when they come in undesirable ways. You remember the lesson when it hurts. The more painful something is, the better you will become, a mentor once told me. Know how little I know. In 40 years, I never once stopped to truly reflect or learn about the path I have traveled, the road I have taken, the knowledge I have gained, or, as some might say, the accomplishments I have made. There's no time for that, son, Mom said recently when I asked a question in that regard. Who cares? We have the next task to achieve, a new project to work on, a new height to reach, and, most importantly, a next group of people for whom to add value. I couldn't agree more, since I never put too much thought into myself, again not by choice but based on my conditions and environment. I notice now that I have closely followed my mom's path, or she has duplicated herself in me. We keep moving at such a fast pace that we no longer know how to stop. We enjoy our lives tremendously through the smiles and gifts received here and there from others, and the privilege we have had to share with others. Most have proven to be quite fruitful. We thank others for giving us the opportunity to always serve them, for the ongoing joy that we receive by simply doing so. We have watched others launch their own businesses, in which we may have played a small role. We have received many smiles from others who were able to grow their family when we had a hand in providing employment. When people first started to reach out to me for advice in life, business, and education, I was hesitant to respond. However, I have learned to take responsibility and answer questions carefully, as I have seen the impact that these responses could bring to their lives, and therefore, their families' lives. I thank God for the opportunities that life has brought, but then I recognize how little I know. I realize my life experience is a one-sided perspective, and it's only related to me. My answers are biased as they are self-regarded and not on behalf of others. I know I need to learn actively, learn more, and serve more. Enrolling in the PhD program for IT management was one of the best decisions of my life, now that I reflect upon it. Climbing the formal education ladder was a goal set in stone for me ever since my family moved to America. How far I can go is totally up to God, but I know I must keep moving in that direction. I have completed a Bachelor of Computer Science and Engineering with a dual major followed by a Master of Science and Engineering. I landed a position at UPS for 2 years of internship, and then moved to Humana to start my engineering career. I was promoted and received a raise almost every year for my performance. All this was to repay my parents for what they gave to their children. I knew that the least that I could do was to achieve a height that they were not given the opportunity to achieve in their lifetime, an engineer son with 2 degrees and working in more than one Fortune 100 companies in the dreamland of the United States of America. I was doing great, and I outperformed many by my own limited comparison. Then I realized that this was limited thinking. I study for my parents. I work for my parents is a common theme that I have often heard from many other first-generation immigrant children. When I enrolled in the PhD program to continue my education for my 3rd degree, I realized that this thinking was clearly flawed. I can attest that earning a PhD does not get you higher pay or get you promoted or get you to a new level in terms of your career. It is the added value that you bring to the company, your department, your team, and your career that elevate you to the next level. I realized that I wanted a PhD for myself, for my knowledge, for my craving of deep understanding in formal education, and to learn how little I know. I started to realize that my parents worked hard for me to be me, not to be them. When I realized this, I knew that I must become the next level of me, to achieve a higher level of value added for others. My number one goal for getting a PhD was not the degree. I wanted to sharpen my English writing skills at the empirical research level, because, personally, I feel this is the highest level of writing. In my first PhD class, I had to write a 20-page research paper about being a leader, and I completed it in the expected time frame. I knew my English was very weak, especially my writing, but I didn't know how poor it was until I received the graded research paper from my professor. To my surprise, I had read highlighted comments for every single sentence in the 20-page paper. Good God, Jesus. I am dumb and not made to do this, I thought, and was quite discouraged, thinking I was not intended to be a scholar. Through my undergraduate and graduate college years, my grades had always been just enough to pass, and never in the A or B range, so I expected the worst. I was used to pushing my boundaries and giving all experiences my all, especially in education. I did this in my 20-page research paper, and even though I was expecting the worst, red marks in every sentence were a new level of pathetic for me. I needed to know the details for myself, so I asked my professor to meet with me for an advice session to learn more. You are now at the doctoral writing level, not just general writing. Empirical research papers mean you refer to a book, a research paper, a verified article online and magazine for every single sentence that you write, my professor responded. Are you serious? I asked with a sense of my ego running high, and my survival defense mechanism kicking into gear. Every bit of knowledge you know is gained from somewhere. You did not create it or just naturally know it, so you must give credit to those who shared it with you. My headlights brightened, and I realized at that moment how foolish my questions must have seemed to my professor. More specifically, I realized how much I do not know. I knew a great deal about valuing others and their knowledge and always being willing to give credit where value was given. At that moment, my eyes widened and focused. I saw and zoned down to the values of others toward community and myself. My lifelong guiding principle that everyone is beautiful, unique, special, and smart in their own way in the image of God was solidified through this process. Teaching is the best form of learning. Learning by doing or being a practitioner is the best way to learn, my mom advised her children all the time. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in 2006 and did my internship in information technology at UPS as a software engineer 2 years before graduation. My parents encouraged me to be a doer in all things, and so I applied the same inspiration to my career as a computer engineer. I never relied on IT theory alone, always opting to test what I had learned. In IT, we refer to this position as a software developer, coder, or programmer of IT systems. During my internship years, I developed 4 different applications utilizing the newest technology, computer language, framework, and database. All this knowledge had been gained on site by doing, reading books, and researching online. I can also attest that no part of any job or software applications utilized the exact knowledge learned in school, nor did it rely on previous experience. Engineering is about problem solving, building new things, and utilizing new technology that solves new business and life problems. I emphasize the new in all stages, and it is the job of an engineer to figure this out, learn it quickly, and then apply it. After 20 years in the IT field, I had single-handedly or with team collaboration spearheaded many software developments and led the software solution integration of many multi-million-dollar systems that served company customers internally and externally. I spent 20 years completing one project and immediately moving to the next with direct involvement, managing teams, and handling enterprise software architecture at a leadership level. God blessed me with the opportunities to learn and apply my knowledge from software to hardware on all levels. Comfortable, I thought, as I started to notice a repetition in what I did. However, boredom was a common theme that I noticed among colleagues and friends within the engineer field over the years. There was a repetitiveness of requirements on new projects, project cost estimations, project system architecture development, project use case development, project team hiring and building, project team management and status tracking, budget management, and reporting. After years of practicing and doing, repetition brought me to the level of hitting the ceiling in my career. I started to wonder, what's next? Duplication of me, one of my mentors shared with me many years previously, although I did not pay any attention to these words until this point. He was referring to developing talent, teaching others, and creating a clone of himself. Double your impact by duplicating yourself. Throughout my career, I have learned to openly share my knowledge, my developed documents, my writing, and my project presentation documents with team members and colleagues. I found satisfaction in sharing what I knew, but I never viewed teaching as a mission until I realized that is the goal and the best way to seek new life meaning and endless knowledge. When you teach, you learn what you do not know. You gain an important reason to learn and comprehend quickly and then teach, a mentor once told me. I was simply seeking new meaning in what I do, and I thought that duplicating me was a great way to widen my impact and add value to others. This is when I intentionally devoted myself to teaching others and sharing knowledge in the corporations where I worked. I soon recognized that this was not sufficient to satisfy my thirst to create more of me, so I applied for a teaching position as an adjunct professor in the undergraduate IT engineering department. My hunger to teach increased, so I volunteered to mentor IT professionals in the community. I still wanted to do more, help more, and provide a greater impact, so I launched the Louisville Institute of Technology in 2019, which is currently an official proprietary technical college in the state of Kentucky. I learned through this process that the more I teach, the more I learn. You will be asked many questions about a topic that you think you have mastered, only to find that you do not know the answer. This forces you to continually read, gather additional information, and back that up with research just to respond to your students' questions. How exciting is that? This is how another adjunct professor who worked with me at one of the universities assessed his teaching position. I learned that practitioners like me really do know the subject matter, but presenting it to students is another skill set. I have learned so much through teaching and enjoy the infinite new findings, new techniques, and new questions that students and ments ask me. During the past 20 years, I have also been a Kentucky State licensed beauty professional and licensed beauty business owner in a chain of beauty salons. My mom and I developed a series of new professional salons, which we now call beauty apprenticeships for our immigrant communities. Of course, we didn't know what we would call any of this, but we hired all new licensed beauty professionals with no skills and put them through our salons. They were immediately given jobs and developed their skills over time. We are proud to say that over 100 people have successfully completed the course in our salons, and all found gainful employment. Some found work in other salons, some stayed with us for long periods of time, and many launched their own beauty salons. My mom and I never talked much about this, we simply moved forward without hesitation. However, now that I reflect on the salons, I realize that I have received a great deal of personal satisfaction through this process. This mission of developing beauty talent became a lot more official when I launched my own beauty licensing college, a private post-secondary education for all beauty licensing professionals in Kentucky. First of all, I know how hard it is to be an immigrant and an underdog in general for much of my life. I have always known that flexibility in time and tuition payments was crucial in most ventures, and opening a school catapulted these concerns to the top of my list. So, I started Louisville Beauty Academy as the first school of its kind in the state of Kentucky. The school focused on key items that many others like me would need. 1. The most affordable school in all of Kentucky, with price matching to make the tuition more affordable. 2. A pay-as-you-go plan, considering almost any monthly amount. 3. Flexible scheduling and training hours to meet the students' needs. 4. Utilization of information technology to access an online curriculum, and digitalizing all theory study to maximize student and instructor engagement to guarantee success. And 5. Establishing a program whereby students and graduates can attend as long as they wish, returning for tutoring as long as they need after graduation. Done does not mean done to us, we are always available to help, mostly free of charge. I am ecstatic to share that we have graduated over 600 students in the last 7 years, and still counting. What is your highest level of success that you would like to share with others? A media interviewer once asked me. I have fostered close to 1,000 new professionals in beauty, information technology, and other fields of businesses, and they are all successful today. I sleep every night smiling, because I have had a hand in their happy lives, I answered. The privilege is clear to me. God has gracefully blessed me and my family to do what we are excited, eager, and hungry to do more each day. Never waste your tools, son, the tools that God granted you. Mom repeated this often, referring to my life condition, the people around me, my knowledge, my family, and everything I have. None of these are mine, rather they are available for me to borrow in order to do good.